So, on our next episode of Writer's Survival Guide, we're going to go back to basics. We're going to be talking about word processors and writing tools because what you use can impact your quality of life. Um, this is rather a strange episode and concept to talk about because most people get kind of, what's the word, emotionally attached to their writing processor or writing tools. Um, I've talked about this before, but being a writer is pretty awesome because you don't have to spend any more money than you have to because you got a computer, you got Microsoft Word, and you also have a bunch of other alternatives. That's what we're going to talk about today. Um, but that's all you need. That's all you need, whether you're publishing, traditionally publishing, or self publishing. You don't really need to pay for anything else, and that's what's awesome about being a writer. Also, all our file types are really small, so we can use cloud storage very effectively. So what's the point with this episode? This is kind of a very personal episode for me because it's a talking point I talk about a lot, which is Microsoft Word. I don't really like Microsoft Word. Not really. Uh, Maybe familiarity breeds contempt. But before I start trashing, it's essentially trashing Microsoft Word for the majority of the video, I will say all the new changes to Microsoft Word are pretty good. Going to the cloud, Satya Nadella, being the CEO, has really changed what Word is doing and actually what the whole Office suite is doing. I quite like his vision for what the Office suite is going to be because before it was Windows is this closed system. We're going to have all the programs, and that's what people are going to buy us for. And that's been going for, more than 2 decades. And so their limit to reaching customers has stopped because everyone who's ever bought a Windows is already bought it and is already using it. So they have switched to a subscription-based model, which has its pros and cons, but its pros is Word's really good, right? Just the spell check, just the dictionary feature, just the everything. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. I quite like it, and they're updating it all the time. Now, I really don't like the subscription model. No, we're not going to talk about that first. What we're going to talk about is Word is going universal. They're putting it more into the cloud so that if you're on a Mac or you're on Linux, you're going to start using Word. It's not quite there yet, but it is getting there. But it is now becoming a subscription model, and that's really my takeaway on the whole thing. Yes, it's very good, but I hate having to pay more than I have to. It used to be you bought Word, you had Word. Now you have to use what you know. You have to use basically what you're paying for Word with your output. So if you're a hobbyist, it doesn't really matter. But if you are using this as a business, you remember you're always going to have to pay for your Office suite out of your revenue. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to minimize that cost. So we're going to talk about 3 different writing tools / word processors because not all these writing tools like to be called word processors. Starting with number 1. Now, LibreOffice is what I use because this past month, on January 5th, my subscription to Microsoft Office expired. They gave me like 2 years or so with this Surface 3. And that's pretty nice. So I think it was a little bit more than a year. But I'm not going to pay for it. So I've installed LibreOffice on my Surface 3 as well as my main desktop, and it's pretty good. It is open source, so you can just download it. I would recommend you donate to them, help them out. They have been doing a lot of really good improvements. I know it's the Muffin update just this month, if it hasn't done that already. That way you're getting ribbons on your writer and things like that, so it's going to be more Word-like. But this way you can actually choose what type of ribbon style you like. Since it's free, in certain cases you get what you pay for. You may know LibreOffice as it used to be OpenOffice before some tomfoolery happened there. So they forked OpenOffice to LibreOffice, and Libre as far as I'm concerned, is flawless in most ways. Not always. We're going to talk about that in a second. One of the major ways, though, is going to be sometimes your computer just doesn't play well with open source software. As anyone who's used Linux knows, you don't have the drivers. And you know what? There are bugs, but we don't call them bugs. We call them features. We call them a challenge. So for whatever reason, it used to be with OpenOffice that on my old laptop, sometimes everything had the red squiggly or the blue squiggly, that it was incorrect via the spell checking, and that would appear and disappear. Or the major thing that I couldn't use OpenOffice was track changes. So, we all use Word because our editors use Word, and we're probably going to get stuck with it. We will get stuck with Word in one way or another if you allow them to. If you allow the man to keep you down. But with the track changes in OpenOffice, you got the little bubbles, right? You have the little comments. And every comment in the entire document would be inside of each individual bubble. So that was useless. LibreOffice has never had that trouble with me. And OpenOffice with other people's computers has never had that trouble. I haven't had friends who could replicate it. But I found OpenOffice more buggy than LibreOffice. But I also have a friend who uses OpenOffice to edit and format her own ebooks. And she says it's quite nice. I'm going to just assume LibreOffice is even nicer. Another big obstacle for you may be the compatibility. So LibreOffice promotes itself as not completely compatible, but compatible with all your file types. What that means is you can put in a .doc or a .docx. That's the Word file type. DocX is the newer type, Doc is the older, and it will be able to read it and you'll be able to start typing into it right away. So it's compatible. Yay! Now, problem with that compatibility I found when I was transferring Rivalry over to get edited on the main computer. And the problem was the table of contents didn't work. I followed the instructions just as you would on Word, just found the same things on LibreOffice, and it wouldn't work. And here's the reason. LibreOffice touts compatibility, but it is not 100% compatibility. It is just compatible enough. So if you save that document as a docx to an ODT, LibreOffice file type, it won't work. So all I did was open a brand new LibreOffice file, open the docx file, copy and paste the docx into the LibreOffice. Perfectly fine, works perfectly good. So just realize that you might have to try 2 or 3 different ways if that compatibility issue, if you are moving your Word stuff over to LibreOffice. But if you write anything in LibreOffice right from the beginning, it's going to work perfectly. Don't worry about it. But LibreOffice is sort of just the other side of the same coin of Word, right? It's just your Word replacement. And that is why we're going to get to number 2, Scrivener. Scrivener is the writing tool I use, and I swear by it. I tried it out a couple years ago for National Novel Writing Month. I can't remember which year. They usually run there's always a 30-day free trial, but they are one of the sponsors for NaNoWriMo. So I tried it out, and I fell in love with it because Scrivener compiles information in the same way I think of it, scattered in bits and pieces, and I get to move them around. I'll probably have a little graphic that's showing you. And basically it is a binder for a bunch of different file types inside of it, and it is far more powerful than people give it credit for. I have written all my books via Scrivener, or at least finished all of them. They're very good. It's a very good program, but we're going to go up to those are the pros, right? You're going to see it. It's really nice. It's very powerful. It can do everything. Well, it does most things. And at a very affordable price. I know full price is about $40. You'll almost always get like a 10% off or 20% off. I picked it up for $32. There's always this code floating around Or if you are in NaNoWriMo, you get a code just for participating, but if you win, you hit your 50,000 words, you'll get a half off, so $20. And it's a pretty generous license. I've put it on 3 or 4 different computers already, and when I'm writing, the actual act of writing and editing is done via Scrivener. Most editing, initial editing, personal editing, right? When you're tearing your working copy into a finished copy. After that, here's where we go into it. The Windows version of Scrivener is lacking. Scrivener is written as a Mac program first, and it shows. The Windows version just doesn't have the same features. The Mac version, Scrivener can be your everything. You can edit in it, you can format it in it, and it will put your file into whatever type. I believe .mobi and .epub, so you can have ebook and create space files right then and there. And it will do, your heading and where you want your page numbers to go. Not so with Windows. It is just weaker. It is just a port, and not the best kind either. That goes with Linux, but the Linux version's dead. So it can't be your everything. So if you're on Windows, as most people are, and you get Scrivener, be warned. They fully expect you to use Word or LibreOffice to finish your manuscript, so it can actually look and is formatted in the correct way for Amazon and Smashwords and all those places. Now, I will tell you, don't worry about that, because finish your story first. And if you want, I'll put a link in the description. You can try the free trial. I swear by it. I know some people don't. They like working in just one document, but I work in many documents, and it's nice because you can have research folders, and you can put your characters and your locations and all sorts of things into it. We are actually going to have a few more videos talking just about Scrivener and all of its very useful things it can do. So stay tuned for that. But finally, we're going to talk about the other free, well, I guess Scrivener wasn't free, but it is affordable, alternative to writing instead of Word, and that is cloud storage. Now, I'm just going to use Google Drive to be the standard for this, because this is what I started. When I first started writing the Dragon's Tier, I wrote it in Google Drive, and the reason is writing in the cloud is very safe. As long as you have your Google account or your Outlook, or not Outlook, that's Microsoft's email service. OneDrive used to be ScriDrive till they almost got sued, or they did get sued. Or Dropbox, or any sort of service that you want to use, is you can just type right into it. And since we are writers, we use very little space, which is really nice. You can basically have all your works in there, and you can still stay within their free service instead of paying the, I don't know, they're pretty affordable, right? $20, $30 a year. But what is nice is, compared to Word or LibreOffice or Scrivener to a certain extent, is you really can't lose your document unless you lose access to the account. Because it's cloud, you have to always have an online connection, and those things save usually every couple of seconds, every 3 to 5 seconds. So if you're working on something and you lose internet connection, you can still continue writing. And with writing and with the value in our manuscripts is we need to back up every so often, at least once a week. I'm going to talk about a few other things we can do to help, but there's that, 3 stages to not losing or lower the probability of losing your work, and nobody wants to remake a 70,000 word document. It is very demoralizing. It's a waste of your time. If you could just build in a couple of good habits. And you know what? Google Drive's a perfect habit to have. Just start your Gmail, go right into it. And really, Google has been helping or improving their Google Drive so much because of their Chrome OS. You get your little Chromebooks, and you're using all your Google services. So at this point, you can definitely write a full document, full edits. And I don't know if you can format into it. I believe you can. But again, you can just move right on over to a Word or a LibreOffice to finish it up. as it were. I remember there was one lady who had a whole novel that she was crowd writing it with. I don't know what that was. She was basically allowing people to read the very first draft as she was making it. So you would find the Google Doc link and you can just watch her, right? Because Google Drive gives you different permissions you can give people. You can make it public, but it can be view only instead of other people editing it. Also a great way to just keep it private, but only have that link access to a editor, right? So Google Drive or whatever service you want to use, really good. And you know what? You don't have to think about backing it up because it's constantly getting backed up. Aye. That's not this script. That was all just out of my head. That was the old script, right? I didn't want to see that thing anymore. Basically, what I'm getting at is there are a lot of good writing tools and writing processors out there for you to use. Also, really good ways to start saving some money or start building some habits. But honestly, at the end of the day, you have a lot of really phenomenal choices you can use. But it's really up to personal preference. I love writing in Scrivener. I love taking things over to LibreOffice due to how powerful both programs are. But I also just love what Microsoft is doing with their whole Office suite. Really, as their company as a whole, they've been making such good improvements to where I used to be a major criticizer of it. So if you want to spend, what is it, like $80, $100 a year for especially, I think Word and Excel have definitely improved the most out of all those services. Use them, right? Use them on whatever you like to write on, whether it's on your laptop or tablet or on your desktop using mechanical keyboards, hopefully. Go ahead and start using them. These are just some alternatives for you to use, especially if you want to save some money and keep costs down. That's enough of me rambling about Microsoft Word and how I don't like subscription services like this. Anyways, that's going to be it for the Writer's Survival Guide episode 2. Next video, we're actually going to be talking about Scrivener. Some of my favorite things to do with Scrivener, because if I like to use it, I like to share what I like to use about it with you all. So, see you next time.